Joining us today on the goldadvisor.com podcast, we've got Warwick Smith. He's the CEO and director of American Pacific Mining. Under his leadership, the company's been making headlines with high grade hits at Madison and Montana and keeping a sharp focus on building value across a strong project portfolio. Warwick's reputation is for moving fast, thinking big, and bringing serious momentum to the junior mining space. He also hosts a great podcast of his own. And Warwick, thank you for jumping in with us today.
That's an awesome intro, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Don't tell everybody I did 4 takes.
No, I won't.
Have you dropped any new podcasts lately? That's my first question.
Yeah, I wish the answer was yes. It's probably been probably getting close to a year since I've done any of the speculator podcasts. I have a bunch of other guests that I'm very interested in interviewing. It has been a year of kind of cleanup at American Pacific and lining up a bunch of transactions, which has taken all of my bandwidth. And so no, I have not. Although the intention is to pick it up again here shortly.
The last one I saw was you on the beach.
Yes,
How
yes.
did you get the sound for that to not just be crashing waves and howling winds?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? The crazy part about that is that house is no longer there because of those fires in California. That house is gone. We were the one of the last people to use it, which was really unfortunate. Um, yeah, great sound crew. Did a really good job. You're up on stilts, kind of over the beach, right? So you've got a little bit of room, but you can hear it a little bit in the background. But if you watch it closely enough, you could actually see dolphins like surfacing in the background. So it was a pretty cool. And Bruce Stein, who I interviewed. Was the former CEO of Mattel, part owner of Team Liquid, the esports team. Was a great guy to interview. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he had a super cool story. But
Yeah,
the
yeah,
real headline today, I guess this week, is that American Pacific has sold Palmer, makes a
yes,
chunk of dough,
yep.
and takes a stake in Vizsla Copper. Why Vizsla? Why now?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the why Vizsla piece is pretty simple. Their team has built a billion plus dollar companies, and we think they've got an asset here that they've got a shot, at least, of doing that again. We believe in the team very strongly. We like the guys on top of it. They were very easy to deal with. Often in these transactions, they can get a bit a hostile or frustrating as you go through. Was not the case here. Very professional. Even on sticky points, it was easy to come to consensus on things. They will build a excellent company in Vizsla Copper, and we're very happy to be large shareholders of it.
Definitely. You were saying I watched an interview with them and you, and you're still years away from actually, production, but
Yeah.
there's work to be done in that time.
No, that's right. You're a ways away from production there, but your tremendous upside at Palmer and what we always felt was the tremendous upside at Palmer is the exploration upside. So combined, it's 16.7 million tons now. And every smart geologist that we spoke to thought there was opportunity for that to be 50 plus. But it meant getting out and doing that exploration. And previously we'd had a partner that was solely focused on putting it in production. They were a great partner. They spent a lot of money. They moved the asset forward and did a lot of good work. But for upside, for excitement, exploration is where it's at. I mean, there's boulders running 4% copper up there, and now you've got a team that took Vizsla Silver from a $20 million market cap. They built it over a $2 billion market cap now. It's got the largest pure silver mine in the world, looking to recreate that in the copper space. That's pretty exciting. Yeah, we're thrilled to have transacted with them. And the question of why now? It was almost a year ago to the day that we took 100% ownership of Palmer, and so it took some time to get to that point. But we talked to a good amount of groups along the way. We talked to Vizsla Copper uh, 8 9 months ago. But timing as it is, it takes time to work these things out. On top of that, Trump coming into power in the U.S. really opening up Alaska. Once they opened that Rambler Road up there, I ended up being involved in that quote, ending up being in a quote from the on a White House statement. The Governor Dunleavy put out a letter talking about the best assets for development in Alaska, and Palmer was the first one listed. All of these things started to happen, and the timing connected.
I bet on your bucket list or future ambitions goal list, you probably never foresaw that you'd have your name in a White House presser, eh?
I will say this. I won't say his name, but I have a fantastic guy who does our PR,
Mm.
and he had texted me that morning and said, "Did you see the White House statement?" And I responded and said, "Yeah, of course I saw it. We put a press release out on it yesterday. Like, what are you talking about?" And he responded saying, "No, the one you're quoted in." And I kind of went, "What?
Say that
what's
again.
what's
Am I
happened here,
dreaming?
right?" And
Yeah.
yeah, I had to pay a bit more attention then, and then yeah, sure enough, quoted in the White House statement. So that was great. I mean, it was they're really like this administration for U.S. centric mining. They're really leaning in. They're not just leaning in, but they're funding it themselves now too. Putting money into the likes of Trilogy and others. It's great to see. It's nice to see mining on the forefront. I've been doing this since 1999, and I've never been in an environment quite like this. So, yeah, we're excited now that we've sort of cleaned up taking a year to kind of clean up Palmer. Now transacted on it. We're going to look to transact on these Nevada assets and really focus on Montana. We're keen to get out and do a bit more of this, right? Create some more excitement around American Pacific. We've been, you know, we it's been a hot stock in the past. It was the Wall Street Journal ranked us the number one performing gold stock globally in 2021. We'd like to get back to those heights. So let's get after it and start drilling Montana and get these other transactions done and create some excitement.
Yeah, when you say the transactions on the other sites, are you planning to sell those as well, or is
Yes.
that you just mean get them up and running?
No, planning to trying to sell them as well. So having ongoing conversations on that front. There's four assets down in Nevada. So we feel that with a couple of other transactions, we'll be in a position where we'll have a suite of equities that will future fund a lot of the exploration in American Pacific. Already the equity in Vizsla Copper, I should note it hasn't closed as of yet. It'll take another week or so for it to close. But they had announced a $25 million financing and upsized it to 42 million. So certainly well on its way. Once that gets closed, the equity today is worth about $18 million for us. We think it's got an opportunity to do really, really well. So we're excited about that. Throw in a couple of other transactions, which we suspect will get done here in relatively short order. And all of a sudden, you've got a basket of equities and a really exciting high grade scar and porphyry system down in Montana. You put yourself in a really good position for success.
Seriously. American Pacific was selected as finalist in both 2021 and 22 for Deal of the Year. So maybe this is the year. You've
You
put,
know
you've
what?
put
It's about time we win one.
yeah,
Yeah, we've been nominated for a few different things along the way. So yeah, it'd be nice to look. I really want to get things moving in the right direction, stock wise, and start storytelling a bit more and getting out there and shining a spotlight on the company again. That's
hmm
what it needs, and so we'll do a lot of that. And with that comes good things on the back of exploration success. And so we'll get out and drill Madison and finish up these other transactions, and then we'll see where the chips fall from there.
third time's a charm.
I
With
hope so.
copper, zinc, and even barite in the spotlight and factoring in for these tariffs in the sense that all these minerals are now in high demand, um, and
Hmm.
Trump's trying to work favorably to get all the red tape out of the way. How
Hmm.
does that change how you're positioning some of these assets? How does that change how you do your day to day? Any strategy kind of changes, or are you just kind of diving in deep?
It's full steam ahead more than anything else. The cutting of the red tape, the opening up of Alaska, that allowed us to do that Palmer transaction. That in large part just took what was a potential transaction and pushed it over the goal line, which is usually what you need. As you're doing these deals, you always need some sort of a catalyst to actually get it done, to make the other group take that leap, right? So that was accomplished with the help of this U.S. administration. For Montana, you've got a position now where copper is now listed as one of the critical metals, so that's going to be helpful. We're certainly seeing the administration streamline permitting, invest in projects as well. So all of those options are open for Montana as well, especially the back of these drill holes. We're taking some deep shots and looking for a porphyry, which would be a big system. On the back of any success there, there could be some doors open very quickly on that end.
Sticking with Montana, you've talked about Alaska sort of having some recent free ups in how they do business, especially in the mining sector. Montana's always been overlooked in your words. What's the new point of view that coming out of there? Like this, is there a bigger upside, or has it always been easy to work through, and now you're just getting sort of results out of your properties?
Yeah, I think truth be told, it's always been relatively easy for us working in Montana. We've never had any issues with it. A lot of the big companies are there now. Barrick's down there. Rio Tinto's been down there. So you're seeing Montana kind of opening up more. I mean, the one of the largest porphyries in the world is the Butte mine, which is in Montana. So it's got that reputation and that ability to, if you find a project, you can put it in production. Anecdotally, their weekly newspaper is called the Madisonian, not named after the mine, but called the Madisonian. We did a phone call with them, had them out on site, took a bunch of photos. They ran an article about American Pacific and put it on the front page of their paper, speaking positively about the work that we were doing up there, how we were hiring locals and doing things in an environmentally sensitive way, all these things. I mean, it's not very often that you get to see a mining company, especially one of our size, on the front of a paper. So yeah, Montana's a friendly place to work. The BLM's been great up there. The DEQ is the other agency that we work with. They've been easy to work with. Yeah, we've been really pleased.
That's great. And of course, yeah, like you were saying, someone of your size all of a sudden getting front page news,
Yeah,
always positive. That
yeah,
that Madison site itself, you've just completed the phase one of 2025 drilling. What
yes.
are some of the big insights and takeaways that you've seen, or ones that noticeably jumped off the page for you?
Yeah, there's sort of two. One, there's past producing mines kind of all across the property. The property is 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers. Everyone's always kind of focused on this one area, which is the old Madison mine, just because of the grades. It carries spectacular grades. For the first time ever, there we connected where the old Broadway mine was to the Madison mine, showing that it was connecting down at depth. That was a big takeaway for us. The Broadway mine had produced 144,000 ounces of gold at 9.9 grams oxide at surface. I mean, now if you have a 1 gram oxide mine, you're in business,
Hmm.
and good business at that. So almost 10 grams is gives you an idea of the grades that it can carry up there. So that was exciting for us. And then going forward, the guys have done a lot of work putting together a geochemical 3D model for the first time as well, just showing which way all these fluids are dipping, which is we believe is leading us towards the porphyry, which would be a very big prize for us, much in the way that Hercules had drilled 300 holes and had about a $40 million market cap drilled into the porphyry, and then it had a $400 million market cap and Barrick as a partner.
Hmm.
Those are the drill shots that we're taking next. So they're compelling, exciting holes, and yeah, we're keen to get out and drill those.
Yeah, even then, I believe your waste piles have now been shown to be economically feasible as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we actually had a discussion on that with a one of the local mills, and that's sort of an ongoing discussion to see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, 2.7 million pounds of copper were produced between 2008 and 2012, between 20 and 35% copper. And they took an extra 7,500 ounces of gold at 16 grams gold. So yeah, it carries great grades, great
Yeah, that
grades.
whole area has a pretty, pun intended, rich history.
Yeah.
With is Hercules sort of the um, North Star of what you'd compare yourself to in that area?
Um, Hercules would be one. Oh God, I say it all the time, and it's eluding me. Newmont owns it now. It's greater part of the Phoenix deposit, but that was a 3 million ounce scar that vectors down to, I think it's 20 billion pounds of copper below it. It's a the name is eluding me.
That's
Regardless,
okay.
Barrick used to work there. My business partner used to work there as the chief geo. When we very first went underground at Madison, he said this looks just like part of the greater
It'll
Phoenix
come to you.
deposit. It'll
It'll
as soon
come
as
to you
I
as
hang
soon
up
as we
here, it'll
wrap.
come to me. Yeah, yeah. That's
Feel
probably
free
the
just to.
best analogy. Just in
Yeah.
that started at like a 200,000 ounce sliver near surface,
Mhm.
and then they drilled down below a fault, turned it into 1.5 million ounces, stepped out to the south of it, drilled it, added another 1.5 million. So it ends up being 2.9 million ounces at surface. Then they drilled of gold and then drilled down deep, and then they ended up hitting the porphyry. And so we like that analogy. They look a lot alike. The grades here are stronger, but
Mhm.
obviously we got to get to that size, and that's the game plan.
Never mind the name, as long as you know the numbers, right?
Well, yeah, I think I got the numbers right. So yeah, the name, it's funny. It's one of those things when you say it all the time, but you put a camera in front of you, you have a tendency to forget things at times.
I'm the worst for that. You go to parties and you see people you've seen 100 times, but because you weren't expecting to see them or
Yes.
you weren't expecting me to ask that question, you're like, "What's
Yeah.
that name again?"
Yeah, that's it.
Zooming out, you're talking about selling Palmer, selling other assets that you've got. Where does that put Madison now? Is Madison the flagship,
Without doubt.
absolute, under the
Yeah.
microscope?
Without doubt, Madison is the flagship. Back when American Pacific was in its all-time highs, it was based off of Madison and the excitement that was being created there. So we look forward to going back to those times and making this into a significant deposit, which we certainly believe that deserves to be and has the opportunity to be. And it's always been able to capture the attention of the market, and we've been missing that piece of the puzzle. And so now is the time to fix that.
I would assume that makes your day-to-day operations a little bit easier for your team and for yourself. The old adage, he who chases three rabbits will catch none. So if you're focused on one big piece, you can really, move mountains.
Yeah, I think if there's things to be self-critical on, that would be one of them. We've gone out and kind of stacked chips and picked up a bunch of really exciting assets. Love Tuscarora as well. Yeah, Gooseberry is a really interesting asset. But we've got all these assets, but it's like you got to just sort of pick one and focus. And with a market like this, where things are getting more robust, now you can transact and sell these assets, cash up with equity into your company, watch those equities grow, but focus on one asset that you really want to get after. That's exactly what we're going to do. Like if I can find myself in a position here where we've got $20+ million in equities and we're busy drilling Madison, that's a good, strong public company that doesn't need to go back to the markets because it's got all this value off to the side that's being created in a rising market. Yeah, I think that puts you in a good, strong position, particularly if it's a basket of equities, and that's where we want to get to.
Yeah, the basket approach always keeps you not distracted, but a little bit safe because one's going to always be better than say the others might end up being. So you find your bonanza grade somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's right. And so we've been, we were cautious on Palmer. There was some groups that we quite liked, but you know, it was hard to argue against Vizsla Copper. They've had so much success. They were committed to this project. They saw the vision the way that we saw. It was one of the reasons I wanted to do the sit down with Craig, just to sort of hear that, so investors could hear that we were aligned with the vision going forward. And that was great. And so now you sit as kind of true partners with them leading it, driving it forward, but us being big equity holders. We like that. We like that approach, and we think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's also not just a numbers game. Having a good personal um, approach to how you're going to do the work makes it so much
Yeah,
easier and so much better in the long run.
without doubt. Without doubt.
What are some of the major catalysts and milestones that myself, other retail investors should be watching for in 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. More news coming out on Madison, drilling the porphyry at Madison are all going to be major pieces. The announcement of the transaction on Palmer was a big one, getting that closed coming up here in about a week or so. Other transactions on the Nevada assets, I'm hoping to have a couple of those that I get done here in relatively short order as we work towards those. All of that will encompass an awful lot of news flow going forward here, both for from here till the end of the year, but obviously into Q1 and Q2 as well.
I better get set to write some big articles.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
As a general aside, away from the nitty gritty details of the assays, and your busy coming weeks to close these deals or future deals, I've heard you say before that more has to be done within the industry in order to innovate. And yeah, there's ESG and there's taking care of the environment, and then there's deeper things that I'm sure that I'm not even aware of. So, would you like to elaborate on some of those?
Yeah, I wrote that article, yeah, probably about a year ago now, about how tech entrepreneurs are viewed in this really sort of revered light where mining entrepreneurs aren't. And I think it's on a younger generation to kind of fix that from the mining side. If you can't grow it, you have to mine it. And we're getting into an environment now, again under this administration, that's really bringing and propping mining up. And I think that's a great thing. Look, we talk about environmental sensitivities. I try to explain to people that I run a public company. The last thing I want to do outside of really enjoying the outdoors, having kids who really enjoy the outdoors, the last thing I want to do is take on any sort of liability of a major,
Yeah.
environmental issue. So you have that in your mind on top of just trying to be a good human being. And so getting that piece out of the way, but also having people understand that if you're running a mining company, you have to be able to work in the boardroom. You have to be able to have boots on the ground. You have to go be able to find projects, make discoveries, raise the capital, work with the communities, all of those things. Much in the way it's different than tech, but it's similar to tech. And so finding, mining entrepreneurs in that light, I think is something that will be good for the industry going forward. And we go out of our way to do a lot of different PR. Been on, I don't know, 50 plus different interviews this year through all kinds of different mainstream channels, CBC, CTV, BNN, Bloomberg, just to name a few off the top of my head, Yahoo Finance, etc. Um, Nothing more important than the Gold Advisor, though, obviously. But just being out there and trying to talk to the mainstream about what we're doing, why it's important, why they should pay attention to things like copper and the macros, more so than just pitching American Pacific every single time. You obviously want to weave that in and make people aware of it, but understanding what's happening and what's going to be required going forward is an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And I always found it funny, walking into PDAC and there's swaths of protesters out front. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be confrontational, but I always say, like, do you know how much of your technology, your solar panels, those day to day things that you use every hour in some cases, or some people don't even put theirs down? I'm
Yeah.
referring to phones. Do you know how much of that is mined? And the sort of the deer in the headlights looks that I got from a lot of them, getting this awareness out there is, I think, very pivotal and very key.
Yeah, I agree. It is one of those things that it's sort of incumbent upon all of us to have these conversations, and in the media. I mean, taking on the protesters might be
I'm
a
not
more
fighting this fight alone.
challenging.
I,
Yeah. But
if
through the media and being out and advocating for the industry itself, I think is really important. It's something that we should all be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with dialogue, it starts with conversation, and I feel like a lot of people latch on to a concept without really diving into what is the elements behind the concept that they're backing. So you try to do it respectfully. I don't want to be in a conflict at PDAC. I don't want blood on my suit. I don't want to get punched. It's just I want to sort of share what I know to maybe cool their temperaments. But that's not where we're going here. I know you've also done some a lot of drone detection to map out your sites and to even do um, like lidar X-ray kind of under the ground to see what you've got there without having to spend a ton of money on drilling. I'm assuming not only is that a technologically more advanced way to do things, it probably saves a ton of money and it's one less pockmark in the countryside.
You know what? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Madison's a great example of this, as we've spent the past 18 months not just doing the geophysics and the geochem and what have you, but really compiling all of the old data that was out there, getting that into a 3D space and building a proper model around it, which all sounds particularly easy until you actually get into the nuts and bolts of it. Doing that really puts you in the best position when you're taking investors' money to use it wisely by drilling in the right spots or what you think are the right spots. You want to take informed drill shots. And these will be the most informed drill shots that we've ever taken at Madison because of all the pre-work that's been done. That's how, in our eyes, big discoveries can be made, and we certainly hope one's going to be made here in short order.
Time spent on reconnaissance is time well spent.
Agreed. Yeah,
I don't want you
absolutely.
to admit it or not if you've read Jeff's book. For all the listeners out there, definitely read Jeff's book. But he starts it with a pretty I don't really like tight spaces, so to speak. So he starts it with a pretty insane story of climbing down a very narrow mine shaft in China. And I'm wondering, do you have any good mining tales of your own that you want to share? Lost in the jungle, broken down in the middle of nowhere?
I've got a few. I went to a pretty sketchy mine in Mexico, I can recall, as a young man, and walking straight through into the sort of up into the mountainside, but straight through into a tunnel. And I remember it came and it was sort of broken out, and there was about I don't know, maybe about 1 foot of pathway. And I remember the guy saying to me, like, be careful because if you fall down, like no one's coming to get you, and it goes down 8 levels.
Oh,
Yeah, I
geez.
remember thinking that was pretty sketchy. But most of the time now, the ones that we go to are pretty good. but when you're doing exploration, you can find yourself in some pretty interesting situations. That's happened more than a few times. Those stories are probably better for having a beer at the pub and walk you through those at some
No,
point.
tell us now. Make it as incriminating as possible.
Yeah, there's parts of the U.S. can still be the Wild West out there. So yeah, it can get interesting for sure.
I can only imagine. Well, eventually I'll be doing my own site visits and site walkthroughs, so hopefully nothing
Yeah.
like that happens because
No, but we'd love to have you down in Montana. We'll definitely plan on getting a bunch of different guys down there. So yeah, please come and join us.
that would be fantastic. I feel like this is a great place to leave it, both in the sense that nobody wants a 40-minute podcast, but also one last question for you. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you really want to really have out there?
I think American Pacific's kind of a unique proposition now that we're here. People know Montana. They know the grades that it can carry. They know the excitement that it can carry. Now that it's backed with a whole bunch of equity behind it, the idea that there's going to be future equities coming, I think people are going to be able to get behind that. And yeah, we're certainly going to be out and telling the story more aggressively these days, and looking to create excitement. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to what's ahead at Madison.
Same. I mean, your numbers have been great. These recent findings with copper and all this new news coming out with better mining jurisdiction, you know, red tape removal is what I'm trying to say. I'm
Hmm.
hoping that we see, a nice big revival.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Warwick.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.